Jeremy, what made you think about bringing The Exorcist to television so many years later and after so many sequels?
Honestly, it was an open writing assignment. Morgan Creek owned the rights to the original William Peter Blatty novel, and they were looking to translate that to television. I heard about it. I said, the idea of a remake, the idea of telling the same story seems crazy to me. You're never going to do a better job than William Friedkin did with that original film. But I did see an opportunity there for telling a brand new story with a brand new set of characters that really tackles issues of faith and morality and the battle between good and evil and all these things that feel like really fertile ground for a horror show to explore. And the idea of kind of getting to smuggle a really smart, really compelling thriller family drama onto TV in the guise of a horror show, and then to have kind of free reign to go as scary as you want because it's The Exorcist. It was irresistible. I couldn't pass it up and still live with myself.
And so what's your experience with horror films and the horror genre? Is this something that you're new to, or are you a big fan of horror?
I have Jaws tattooed on my arm. I saw it when I was 4 years old, and as soon as my parents sat me down and explained to me that the shark was made out of rubber and wasn't actually eating those people, I said, okay, well, I'll just do that when I grow up. Like, you've been trying to sell me on astronauts and firemen and everything. I'm just going to go play with the big rubber sharks. So I've kind of known what I want to be my entire life, and it's thanks to horror movies. I saw the original Exorcist way too young, probably 12 or 13, and traumatized me for weeks. So I got my start writing horror before I transitioned into kind of bigger studio movies, but it's always had a huge place in my heart. It's always kind of my first love when it comes to writing. So to be able to have a show like this that marries horror with drama and thriller aspects is really the best of both worlds for me.
And how do you think the religious aspect plays in with the Catholic priests and the exorcisms? Do you have any experience with that, or is that something that you're new to?
I was baptized Catholic and raised Protestant, so I do have a religious background. In terms of the religious aspects, you have to treat these things with the weight that they deserve, because these are areas that are incredibly important to audience members. They're things that people believe in. They're things that people have strong opinions about. And so it's our duty to tell the best story possible and to make a show that's fun and compelling for everyone. But at the same time, we have to be very respectful in how we're portraying areas of faith. So that's why we've reached out and we've spoken with Catholic consultants. We've brought in actual exorcists and talked with them off the record about some of their experiences and some of the things they've done and seen, because we're really trying to ground the show in reality as much as we can, because that's where the horror comes from. When it feels like real life, when it feels like this is something that could happen to you or this could happen to your family, it makes it much scarier to me.
Okay, at this point I'd like to break away from the on-screen observations and offer some verbal discussion on this recent development, because I want to ask a question at this juncture. How should an Exorcist theatrical reboot, if it comes to pass, be approached by Morgan Creek Productions? Now, I've spent a little bit of time thinking about this, not a whole lot, I'll grant you that, but I think the answer is rather simple, because we already have a very sound template in the form of the Exorcist TV series. Now, I'm sure you can tell by what's gone before that I really enjoyed this briefly lived program, and was one of those who had hoped it would get a third year on television to continue its story, meaning that by now we'd probably be in about the 5th year of this tale had it continued. Alas, those developments did not unfold, and that was disheartening, but perhaps this movie by Morgan Creek, as much as we may cynically think of it as only another asinine Hollywood cash grab, maybe this is in fact a road to year 3, a road to a revival of the TV series, possibly. So how should this be approached? Well, if one takes a look at how Jeremy Slater himself previously laid out his plans for the 3rd year of The Exorcist on television, the template for a reboot movie, in my opinion, becomes quite plain. In the 3rd year, Slater planned to explore a vast Luciferian conspiracy that had in fact taken deep root inside the Catholic Church, but that had also had tentacles inside business, academia, government, finance, industry, indeed all sectors and levels of human civilization, not exclusively limited to religion. He planned to explore to what ends this demonic system had infiltrated the corporeal dimension, the physical realm of existence, and what their goals were. Now, we don't know what those goals were expressly, but we can obviously guess that as demons, their chief goal was the overthrow and destruction of the Creator's order on planet Earth, so whatever they were plotting could not have been good from that point of view. The foundations for such schemes were spelled out during the first 2 seasons of the Exorcist TV series, and could be explored in a major movie, if it should continue along those lines. Now, why could such activity be explored in an Exorcist movie reboot? Well, number one, it's already being produced by the same film studio that has the rights to the original Blatty novel and which produced the TV series. So it should be quite easy for Morgan Creek to pick up on where The Exorcist 3rd season would have begun and carry it forward into a theatrical release. Let me also say that as an aside, I personally wouldn't mind seeing the same actors revive their roles in such a production. It was clear from the series that 3 chief personalities were to be the driving force, the dramatis personae that undergird the show. They were Fathers Marcus Keene, as portrayed by Ben Daniels, Devin Bennett, played by Kurt Ijiwan, and Tomas Ortega, as acted by Alfonso Herrera. Is it possible to bring these 3 men back as the nucleus of such a movie? Well, absolutely it is. Now, we know that at the end of year 2, Father Devin Bennett had been possessed by a host of demons who'd chosen him to help lead the conspiracy against the church in some capacity or another, and that he was in fact handpicked to take the place of the late financier Maria Walters, herself a demoniac who had volunteered to serve the conspiracy and become deliberately possessed by a demon in order to do so. For his part, Father Marcus Keene helped to expose and then rout this conspiracy in season 1, at least temporarily, and Tomas Ortega also served in his own capacity to assist Marcus in preventing the designs of this conspiracy from unfolding, at least for the time being. We also know that Father Tomas was himself a target for recruitment by the conspiracy, so there's plenty of story to pick up on here in a major movie, and I hope they choose to follow that direction. Now, of course, continuing the template established by the 1973 original movie, this movie reboot might choose to focus instead on an individual or on a family that is being plagued by a demon, rather than on a broad overarching conspiracy, both for the sake of theatrical story time and for the sake of simplicity in telling a story. It may not necessarily be practical for Morgan Creek to portray such an ambitious idea as a vast Luciferian conspiracy on the big screen in such a limited time frame as could be told on the small one in a much more drawn-out manner. So I could see why they may not choose to take such a direction if they did not do so. However, I would say this: if Morgan Creek does not decide to go in either of these directions, I personally would rather see it sink its money into reviving the TV series as a whole rather than on a movie that has no connection to the already established small screen show. And of course, if this movie is a complete deviation from the 1973 masterpiece, well, this would be nonsensical on its face and should not be done at all, as others have forthrightly and correctly said. So if this thing takes off, let's see where 2021 and 2022 perhaps might take The Exorcist, and if this indeed will be something worthy of William Peter Blatty's vision and writing and William Friedkin's 1973 accomplishment. In conclusion, naturally, I invite you to express yourselves in the comments section, as it is always enjoyable for me to read your thoughtful responses, and we'll see what happens with the Exorcist movie reboot, should it actually occur. Until next time, Exorcist fans, be blessed.